David's death visually is more reminiscent of Captain Rhodes in Day of the Dead, as he's torn apart by zombies in a horrifically gory way.
Hey guys, my name's Dan, and today's reaction comes from Dead Meat. This is Shaun of the Dead 2004 kill count. Now, I'm very excited to get into this because not only is this one of my favorite zombie/horror movies of all time, but it's also one of my favorite movies in general. I can't tell you how many times I've seen it, and each and every time I watch it, there's always something new I find that I enjoy, which makes me enjoy the movie just that much more, and now I get to learn so much about it. So if you enjoy other kill counts, I've reacted to many of them for you to enjoy. And if you want to see future reactions that I do, you can go right below this video, click that like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell, because not only does it give you access to future reactions that I do, but also helps my channel out a ton. They can go on over and support Dead Meat if you haven't already. I'll leave a link to the channel down in the description. And without any further ado, let's go.
Welcome to the Kill Count,
Hey!
where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James A. Janice, and today we're looking at Shaun of the Dead, a British zombie comedy released in 2004. I figured since I just schooled y'all on the origins of the modern zombie by covering Night of the Living Dead, we could take a look at one of the funniest takes on the subgenre, a story about two man-children so driftless in life, they don't even notice when the zombie apocalypse begins. Starring Simon Pegg as the titular Shaun, and Nick Frost as his layabout stoner best friend, Shaun of the Dead was co-written by Pegg and director Edgar Wright. This was Wright's first movie outside of a low-budget 90s Western parody, and it showcases the style he'd become known for in his subsequent work. Most notably, fast-paced camera work and kinetic editing, both of which primarily serve as a vehicle for comedy. Shaun of the Dead is sometimes called a horror movie parody, but I don't think that's accurate, nor what the filmmakers intended.
Well, we never wanted to make the film into a spoof. We didn't want it to be a Mickey take or in any way irreverent.
I would simply classify it as a zombie comedy. It's not doing any satire that wasn't already in Dawn or Day of the Dead, and although it's hilarious, it's also got dramatic moments and sentimental character beats. It all adds up to make Shaun of the Dead a classic, a funny, heartfelt tribute to George Romero that can be enjoyed by horror fans and genre newbies alike. Usual kill count caveat when it comes to horror comedies. This movie's very funny, with a lot of running and recurring jokes.
Yes.
I can't include them all on the kill count. Go watch the movie. I promise you'll be chuffed to bits. One last thing before we get started. This movie is considered the first of the so-called Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy, named after the ice cream referenced in each film.
Do you want anything from the shop?
Cornetto.
The quote-unquote sequels are two stylistically similar films, Hot Fuzz and The World's End, both made by the same filmmakers, Wright, Pegg, and producer Nyra Park. I will not be covering those other two movies, however, since they are a comedy action and comedy sci-fi film respectively.
Fair.
I'm just here for the horror, y'all. And yeah, I know, Mortal Kombat. Bugger off, it's my show. And on my show, I make jokes, give production info, and count bodies. That's a lot to get done, so let's get to the kills.
Let's do this thing.
The movie begins with some Dawn of the Dead music that I'm too afraid to play for you because of copyright. A quick fun opening credits sequence shows us soon-to-be British zombies already acting like the undead, snoozing through life and shambling their way up to that title card. 29-year-old Shaun is in a fucking rut, and it's starting to wear on his girlfriend of 3 years, Liz, played by Kate Ashfield. All he ever does with her is go to this pub, the Winchester, and his best friend Ed is always around, preventing any privacy.
Just be nice if we could.
Fuck.
Spend a bit more time together.
Bollocks.
Ed has a sort of
great line there.
codependency with Shaun, which is a source of
man.
constant annoyance for their third flatmate Pete, played by always a highlight comedic character actor, Peter Serafinowicz. Pete's pissed like a pickled pepper because Ed still acts like they're in college, but Shaun can't help but love his juvenile friend and his smelly farts.
Oh. Oh my god, that's rotten! I'll stop doing them when you stop laughing. I am not laughing, keep going.
Shaun takes a morning walk through his lovely-looking neighborhood, which was filmed in North London, around Crouch End. He passes a radio and hears about a satellite returning to Earth, a reference to Night of the Living Dead, where the undead rose due to similar circumstances. This movie's got a ton of references to Romero's work and some other horror films, but I won't be able to point them all out in this kill count. If this episode does well, maybe I'll make a separate video video going through them all. Chelsea can join me, it'll be fun. At work, where Shaun is an electronics salesman, he's disrespected by his peers, especially 17-year-old Noel, played by Rafe Spall, who was the villain in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Nice blow up, brah. Shaun's also got a terse relationship with his stepdad Philip, who wants him to be a better son to his mother Barbara.
Perhaps you could bring the flowers you forgot to bring Barbara on Mother's Day.
I was gonna.
And not a cheap posy from a garage forecourt.
I wasn't gonna.
Because of his personal and familial distractions, Shaun fails to notice a few hints that society might be headed for disaster. I won't count random fainting lady here as dead, but I will count this dude with his head immobile on his steering wheel. Seems pretty dead back there. Shaun mucks up an anniversary date night by suggesting he and Liz go to the Winchester. It's the last straw for her after a string of disappointments.
You promised you'd stop smoking when I did. You promised you'd go back to the gym. You promised you'd try drinking red wine instead of beer.
It doesn't help that Shaun doesn't get along with her flatmates David and Diane either, both played by British comedic series actors in Dylan Moran, who co-created and starred in Black Books, and Lucy Davis, who played Dawn, aka the Pam Beesly role in the original The Office. She's also Hilda and Sabrina. Liz doesn't want to feel held back by Shaun anymore, so she breaks up with him and sends him shuffling home beneath a symbolic spot of rain. Shaun finds drunken solace in his best friend Ed and his A1 orangutan impersonation. At the Winchester, named after Ben's rifle in Night by the way, they admire their fellow barflies in the film's only scene with improvisation. The rest of the comedy was tightly scripted to match Edgar Wright's precise filmmaking style.
I've never heard that. Coccicidal maniac.
I don't care what Ed tries to invent for pub owner John. Nothing's gonna be as wild as actor Steve Emerson being that middle-aged greaser in the acid trip adventure Bloody New Year. That was one of my favorite kill counts, by the way. Check it out. They leave the pub late, completely pissed, singing Melly Mel and not noticing a meltdown take place next to that TARDIS. A necking couple Shaun had noticed earlier, now a neck-eating lady chopping away at her band. They get back to their flat for some fuckadoodle buffoonery, and it's scenes like this where the real-life friendship of Peg and Frost pays off. They really were flatmates for a number of years, and Frost admits he was a lazy guy during most of that time. Since Frost was a pretty inexperienced actor, production company Working Title wanted someone else in the role. Peg and Wright insisted on keeping their friend, which was not only good for the movie, but also good for their morale on set. A lot of the behind-the-scenes footage feels like good friends fucking around. Their hijinks aren't appreciated by flatmate Pete though, and he yells at Shaun for his Ed-assisted Arrested Development.
Sort your fucking life out, man.
The walk gives us one more kill as well, when Shaun passes a dude dead in his front yard, or whatever British people call front yards. At home, Shaun remains oblivious despite some coded channel flipping.
As an increasing number of reports of
Serious attacks on people who are literally being eaten alive.
He and Ed find a woman wandering around in their garden, a cashier named Mary who was seen in the opening credits. They mistake her as belligerently drunk and treat it as a big laugh until a Shaun shove knocks Mary over and gets her impaled through the back. True to the film's goals of keeping its horror elements horrific, there are some solid effects worked throughout, much of it practical,
Very
with
nice.
some nice CG augmentation when needed. Mary's ability to stand with a see-through abdomen is enough to finally make these deadbeats realize something's wrong. Also a pretty big clue, the fact that a one-armed zombie just walked into their living room. He moans at them until Ed smashes an ashtray over his head, which kills him. Because, as the news reports, head trauma is key to stopping these ghouls.
The attackers can be stopped by removing the head or destroying the brain.
This line, of course, is lifted nearly verbatim from Night of the Living Dead.
The ghoul can be killed by a shot in the head or a heavy blow to the skull.
The best friends decide to take care of Mary and another big boy zombie who's joined her in the garden. They attack them with household items, some albums but not others.
Purple Rain. No. Sign of the Times. Definitely not.
The Batman soundtrack.
Throw it.
And finally, most sensibly, a shovel and a cricket bat. Wright and Peg thought it would be interesting to see a zombie problem in suburban London rather than the US, with guns not nearly as available to the populace. Thus, these weapons, which still net the boys 2 zombie kills when they beat the backlot loiterers to death. Takes them quite a while, but they keep at it until it's done. The man on their telly says to watch out for bite victims, causing them concern about their flatmate Pete. And he's not the only one they know who's been bit, as Shaun learns on a phone call with his mum Barbara.
Mum, have you been bitten?
No, but Philip has.
Oh, okay.
Knowing the danger Philip now potentially presents, they say they're coming over. No ifs, ands, or buts.
We're coming to get you, Barbara.
And in case you were ignorant of that reference, it's one of the most memorable lines from Night.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
In one of the film's best-known sequences, Shaun formulates a plan visualized in Edgar Wright's snazzy style. After a few revisions, he inevitably lands on a rescue mission that ends with them safe at his favorite pub.
Grab Liz, go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over.
Before they leave, Shaun has a wee and finds a zombified Peter in their shower. He died at some point, and since he was an established character, I'll count his zombie appearance as a kill. Shaun and Ed flee their tall, naked zombie flatmate and all the other undead ghouls outside trying to get him. And they are, in fact, the living dead, as the radio confirms. The first part of their master plan is picking up Shaun's mum Barbara, a delightful woman with a delightful nickname for her son.
Hello, Pickle.
The role of Barbara was originally offered to Helen Mirren, but I'm glad it ended up being Penelope Wilton.
Agreed.
She's great. Shaun finds his stepdad Phil looking pretty ill, but just as alive and as surly as ever. Bill Nighy's another great addition to this cast. I love how Philip is constantly disappointed in Shaun, but there's a layer of sympathy beneath it all. On their way out, Philip gets bitten once more, forcing him to hand over the keys to his beloved Jaguar, which Ed insists on driving recklessly. He speeds them on over to Liz's place and drops Shaun off to get his ex. Just a note, I won't be counting zombie head thwacks like these. They aren't brain destroying, as far as I can tell. Shaun climbs through Liz's window to ensure that she's safe inside. He shows off the new Shaun by saying he's here to rescue them and tells her and her flatmates how to survive outside.
If you get cornered, bash him in the head. That seems to work out.
Although David's a pissy boy who poo-poos the plan, the ladies are persuaded, and so out they go, bashing many a zombie head along the way. They cram into Philip's car, where Barbara and Liz meet for the first time, and Ed takes off like a jag out of hell. During the drive to the Winchester, a dying Philip laments to Shaun that it's not easy being a father, and that he always loved him as his own real son. It's an emotional moment, deftly played straight by Nighy and Peg, and shows that this movie isn't content with only getting us to laugh. After his apology, Philip turns into a zombie, scaring everyone out of the car before he can successfully bite any of them. Surrounded by zombies, and this one background body I'll count lying beneath this car, Shaun insists that they continue to the Winchester on foot, since Philip's no longer allowing them to use the Jaguar. On their way, they see zombies eating the corpse of Snake Hips, a guy from the Winchester who reminds me of Rockabilly Jim from the Great Pottery Throwdown. I like how Ed had mentioned Snake Hips was always surrounded by women, a fact that remains true even in death. As Liz is telling Shaun that they're still broken up, their group runs into Shaun's friend Yvonne, leading her own band of survivors. Yvonne was shown in an earlier scene and is played by Jessica Stevenson, who co-created, co-wrote, and co-starred in the British sitcom Spaced alongside Simon Pegg. Spaced, which featured Nick Frost in his first ever acting gig, was also directed by Edgar Wright, and an episode titled Art actually led to Shaun of the Dead. In it, Pegg's character hallucinates a zombie fight thanks to Resident Evil and some cheap street speed.
After shooting that sequence, Edgar and I were like, it'd be great if we could make a zombie film, wouldn't it? Like our own zombie film. It could be like about just us, you know, like what would happen if it happened to us, and that's how it was born.
Pegg and Wright spent years writing and developing the script for Shaun, trying to make the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern to Dawn of the Dead's Hamlet. Even after all that prep work, though, their film crew was initially skeptical of the film's prospects.
One of the zombies in makeup came up to me, thinking that I was a runner, and just looked over at me and went, straight to video for this one.
Yvonne's band of followers includes Martin Freeman, then known from The Office, where he played Tim, the British version's equivalent to Jim Halpert. In fact, Yvonne's entire group is played by recognizable British comedic actors, but the only one I know is Matt Lucas in the back there. He was in Bridesmaids and a co-presenter of Great British Bake Off. The two friends wish each other luck and leave in opposite directions, giving us a funny sight gag when we see that their groups are doppelgangers of each other. While hopping garden fences, Shaun's crew passes a house with a dead body inside. There's also a zombie inside, which distracts Barbara and gets her left behind. Shaun finds her on the ground and then fights with the zombie in PJs, and with some direction from the ladies, pins the feller to a tree.
Feel free to step in any time.
You all right?
didn't want to cramp your style.
Their path to the Winchester is obstructed by a zombie block party, which triggers another whinge fest from David. His moaning gives them the idea to get past the horde by pretending to be part of it. They're prepped for their performance by Diane, who it had been mentioned earlier was an out-of-work actor. With varying commitment, they put on their show, and these thespians do well enough to pass through the swarm of zombies, most of whom were played by fans of Spaced who did this background work for a single £1. They get to the Winchester and find it locked, and when Ed breaks zombie character to answer his phone,
to be fair, I would have done that for free.
It's enough to finally set Shaun off.
I spent an entire life, look at me, I've spent my entire life sticking my neck out for you, and all you ever do is fuck things up and make me look stupid. Well, I'm not gonna let you do it anymore, not today!
The argument brings them Zed attention, so David panic riots and throws a trash can through the window. Not wanting the zombies to follow them into the pub, Shaun elects to lead the undead on a distracting zombie run, allowing the others to get inside and await his return. David's quick to assume that Shaun is dead and feebly asserts himself as replacement leader. As he's lambasting the larders of the Winchester, though, Shaun reappears just in time for snacks and bromance.
Well, I wasn't the one who was blowing our cover by having a tiff with my boyfriend.
He's not my boyfriend.
Might be a bit warm, the cooler's off. Thanks, babe.
The leader once more, Shaun flips the circuits to get the TV working and discovers an undead danger waiting for them outside. The zombie horde that chased him, having followed him to the back door. When Ed stupidly makes noise with a video game, it brings attention to their front entrance too. Pub owner John shows up as a zombie, as does his wife Bernie a moment later in the back. David's able to lock Bernie away from them for now, but John's a problem they'll have to deal with. And thanks to a jukebox that kicks on with the power, this zombie fight will be performed to Queen's Don't Stop Me Now. This is another classic scene, rhythmically choreographed.
Fantastic.
The actors wore earbuds while filming to stay in time with the tune.
It's legit one of my favorite scenes in all of cinema.
Is of course one of the most upbeat and optimistic songs you could think of.
We just thought it'd be hilariously funny to beat an old man to death to it.
Edgar Wright wrote the song into the sequence without even knowing if he'd be able to use it. A quote begging letter to guitarist Brian May got them permission, which honestly worked out for everyone involved. As beloved as it is now, Don't Stop Me Now wasn't always a well-known Queen song. Its inclusion in this film has been credited with bringing renewed attention to it. I've also got to point out that Steve Emerson, who we already knew was a stunt performer, encouraged the cast to wail on him even though he was 70 years old.
Damn!
I love that. The lengthy sequence finally ends when Shaun kills Zombie John by shoving his head into the jukebox machine. Although he has a dart in his head now, courtesy of a big miss from Diane, Shaun also has a gun, the pub's namesake Winchester. And even if he's not experienced with it, Ed's here to help him avoid getting pedantic internet comments.
You know, we've only got 29 bullets. Call him Charles.
The zombies start to break through, and Shaun tries to shoot them back with some group assistance. He's not a very good shot. His only kill is one zombie lady he gets with a headshot. It earns them a lull, during which Shaun learns a horrible secret. His mom Barbara's been bitten on the wrist by that zombie in pajamas back when they were hopping fences. Shaun cries over the tragic fate knocking at her door, while she handles things in a much more stereotypically British way.
It's been a funny sort of day, hasn't it?
Barbara dies of a zombie bite on the floor of the Winchester, and her death causes an immediate conflict. David wants to dispose of her soon-to-be undead corpse right away, but Shaun's not exactly a fan of the idea, and it leads to a multi-way standoff. Shaun asserts that David hates him because David's in love with Liz, and although he denies it, his girlfriend Diane says she knows it's true.
I've come to terms with that, Daz. Why can't you?
Liz shuts down the drama by telling everyone to get a hold of themselves, calming Shaun down just in time to confront his zombie mom. Oh man, that's a good way to ruin your favorite watering hole, having to shoot your zombie mom in the head in it. David makes a remark, Shaun punches him like he were Harry Cooper, and David actually tries to shoot Shaun with the gun. Like, holy shit, he pulled the trigger. It just wasn't loaded.
Right. I'm leaving.
Yeah, dude, no way you're coming back from that. Also, no way you're coming back from zombies busting through the windows and pulling you outside, a la Barbara from the OG Night of the Living Dead. But David's death visually is more reminiscent of Captain Rhodes in Day of the Dead, as he's torn apart by zombies in a horrifically gory way. Oh, and then his legs are ripped off?
Oh,
this
man.
gory death is the best showcase of makeup artist Stuart Conran's work. He filled the fiberglass body with a bunch of fake guts and had Dylan Moran wear it with his real head and arms sticking out. To ensure it came apart correctly, the zombie extras tearing him apart were played by crew members from the prosthetics department. Diane is upset about her boyfriend's death, so she runs outside brandishing his leg as a weapon. I won't be counting Diane as dead though. It's not definitively depicted on screen, and a comic made by Peg and Wright show her surviving the situation by climbing up a tree and napping through the night.
I'm now living in Birmingham with my aunt and remain in Christmas card contact with Shaun and Liz.
Zombies swarm into the building, threatening to overrun our 3 remaining survivors. Shaun kills one zombie by shooting her in the head, but that's all he manages to do before they see a familiar naked zombie. Ed successfully puts zombie Pete in a headlock, but the undead flatmate bites his arm, while zombie Bernie returns to nom on his shoulder. Shaun watches, utterly horrified, but does get some revenge when he shoots zombie Pete in the head, killing him. Shaun, Liz, and a very injured Ed make their way behind the bar, then light it ablaze to keep the zombies at bay. They realize their only way out is the cellar below them, and as they descend, their box of shells explode in the fire, killing 3 zombies with ricochets that turn into headshots. Down in the cellar, the trio finds themselves trapped, leading to an overwhelming sense of hopelessness. With only 2 shells left, they begin making plans of suicide. It's done in a way that's both hilarious and depressing, and is the most in love that Shaun and Liz have seemed in the movie. Thankfully, by the light of a flame, for one final shared cigarette, they discover a keg lift that'll lead them to freedom outside. Ed decides that he'll stay back, not wanting to slow down the lovebirds, and the 2 friends have a heart-to-heart, wherein Shaun apologizes for yelling at him earlier, and Ed apologizes for farting.
Oh, God. That's not funny. Stop doing them when you stop laughing. I'm not laughing.
Oh man, that is so sad and sweet. Shaun tells Ed he loves him as he and Liz ascend on the lift, popping out onto the street where there are still lots of zombies to deal with. Good thing the army shows up and starts mowing them all down, running over 5 of them, giving another a door prize, shooting frickin' 18 of them down with their rifles, and hell, they'll even include these last 2 they thwack in the head, cause they did it with force. Yvonne is here too, and she helps Shaun and Liz get to safety. They've survived the zombie apocalypse, and that's enough for them to give their relationship another go. 6 months later, life is mostly back to normal, with zombies being turned into entertainment. I won't be counting Zeds we see killed in these shows though. Give me a break. I've earned it. I will count Knowles, since he was a previously established character, now confirmed as dead, or undead. Lots of fun quick bits here showing how society has adapted to zombies. They're used in game shows and are the subjects of benefit concerts put on by Coldplay. Nice that someone's looking out for the undead, even if their festering skin is all yellow. As for our hero, he lives comfortably with Liz, though she's not the only loved one in his life. Turns out he's keeping zombie Ed as a garden shed friend, chained up in front of a TV so they can still play games together. And that's nice. Did Shaun of the Dead's focus on comedy detract from its body count? I don't think it did, but let's go make sure at the numbers. Oh!
Very nice camera work there.
By my count, there were 51 kills in Shaun of the Dead. 10 were living men, 3 were living ladies, 27 were zombie men, 10 were zombie ladies, and that one corpse under the car, well, I just couldn't tell. Pretty messy, but makes for a fun-looking pie chart, right?
Yeah, looks nice.
With a runtime of 99 minutes, that left us with a kill on average just under every 2 minutes. I'll give the golden chainsaw for coolest kill to David, torn apart by
100%.
zombies. It's so
100%.
graphic, I can't even show it all in the public version of this video. Dull machete for lamest kill will go to the first victim I counted, the background body in the car. And introduced last episode, I'll give the coolest corpse award for best zombie to Ed. Usually, when a main character gets zombified, it's a tragedy. With Ed, it's almost an improvement. It's a sweet ending, solidifying his and Shaun's friendship, and like a lot of this movie, is foreshadowed in dialogue earlier on.
You want to live like an animal? Go live in a shed!
And that's it. Shaun of the Dead came out in 2004, and George Romero liked it so much, he cast Sean Pegg and Edgar Wright as zombies the following year, when he made Land of the Dead. On Friday, we'll look at the Romero flick whose title was aped here, Dawn of the Dead. Until then, I'm James A. Janice. This has been The Kill Count.
Yeah, so this definitely made me enjoy this movie so much more. I love the combination of Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. They're just so great together. whether it's in these 3 movies or in a movie like Paul, which I love. I don't know how many people love or hate that, but I absolutely loved it. Anytime I see them on screen together, it's an absolute joy for me. And it was also fun reliving a lot of this, because like I said, I've seen this movie so many times, and like learning more and more about these scenes just really makes me just love this movie more. So that's going to do it for me here. But before I go, though, I want to give a huge shout out to all my $5 and up supporters on Patreon. Marvin Espinoza, Cruising, Wolver 310, Multi-Disturb, 666, Jordan Bird, Lord Davenport, Kevster Cronage, Amber K, Raymond Bright, Angel Garcia, Joshua Tees, Chris Curtis, and Angel Santillan. And if you too like to have your name read at each and every one of my videos, plus many other fun goodies, maybe have me react to a past kill count or 2, please head on over to patreon.com/Reactor. The link will be right there. And in the description, you can right below this video, click the join button there, or head right over my channel page and click that join button there. And with that being said, comment down below, let me know what did you think about Shaun of the Dead. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Also want to see patch tracks and I've done the other Dead Mean videos. Got a nice playlist right over there full of them for you. Share this video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Your notification bell because I put new videos every single day. And I will see you guys next time.